All India Radio presents Morning News. Good morning. I'm Anuja Kumar and with me is Subhadra Ramachandran. The headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says India has emerged as fastest growing major economy in world with the mantra of reform, perform and transform. Home Minister Amit Shah stresses on early investigation of rape and sexual offences against women and children and stringent punishment in time-bound manner. Chairs the 25th Western Zonal Council meeting at Diu. WTO Ministerial Conference to begin today in Geneva. Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal to lead Indian delegation. 3 terrorists gunned down by security forces in Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. UN General Assembly adopts India-sponsored resolution on multilingualism, mentions Hindi language for the first time. India's growing military prowess, a stabilizing force in Asia-Pacific, says US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. Ayush Minister Sarbanand Sonowal says 25 crore people to be associated with programs for International Day of Yoga. Tokyo Paralympian Avni Lekhra wins second gold medal in women's shooting at Chateauroux 2022. Prime Minister congratulates Avni on her feat. And in cricket, second T20 international between India and South Africa to be played in Cuttack this evening. And now the news in detail. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said India has emerged as the fastest growing major economy in the world with the mantra of reform, perform and transform. Sharing a tweet thread from the MyGov and articles from his website and Namo app, Prime Minister Modi said the government has brought in several reforms which have taken further the ease of doing business. He said many outdated laws have been removed which were slowing the growth. The Prime Minister shared details of reforms during the last 8 years in the field of ease of doing business and for spreading widespread prosperity and encouraging entrepreneurship. The Namo app Twitter thread says it is only due to the Modi government's relentless pursuit of reforms that today India has emerged as the fastest growing major economy in the world. It says to learn more about 8 years of reforms, visit the Vikas Yatra module on the Namo app and website. Union Information and Broadcasting and Youth Affairs Minister Anurag Singh Thakur said yesterday a lot has been done for the youth of the country in the last 8 years of NDA regime. Talking to AIR News after Garib Kalyan Jan Sabha in Bakshi Ka Talab area of Lucknow, Mr. Thakur said now the youth of the country have become job providers also.
8 साल में उत्तर प्रदेश के युवाओं के लिए जो अवसर आए हैं, एक छोटा सा बदलाव हम स्टार्टअप्स में लेकर आए, युवाओं का हैंड होल्डिंग की, उनको सहयोग दिया, तो आज वही युवाओं ने भारत को दुनिया की तीसरी सबसे बड़ा स्टार्टअप नेशन के रूप में खड़ा कर दिया। ये अपने आप में दिखाता है कि 100 से ज्यादा स्टार्टअप्स यूनिकॉर्न बनी हैं, तो लाखों करोड़ रुपए की जो वैल्यूएशन हुई वो भारत के लिए उसका लाभ हुआ है। करोड़ों लोगों को रोजगार के अवसर मिले, उससे लाभ मिला है। इसी तरह से युवाओं को अच्छी शिक्षा से लेकर जो बाकी सुविधाएं सड़क की हो, मुद्रा योजना की हो, बैंक खाते की हो, स्टार्टअप इंडिया के माध्यम से हो, इन योजनाओं के लाभ से भी आज युवा नौकरी मांगने वाला नहीं, नौकरी देने वालों में से उसका नाम आता है।
Reacting on the use of youth power in destructive acts like violence and stone pelting in recent incidents in the country, the Youth Affairs Minister said it is unfortunate that some people are trying to disrupt the growth of the country.
कुछ लोग ऐसा प्रयास करते हैं कि जो देश आगे बढ़ रहा है उस पे कहीं ना कहीं रोक लगाई जाए, छवि खराब की जाए। शायद ये बहुत लोग पचा नहीं पाए कि कैसे भारत दुनिया की सबसे तेजी से बढ़ती अर्थव्यवस्था बन गई, कैसे भारत ने 193 करोड़ वैक्सीन लगा ली, कैसे भारत ने 80 करोड़ लोगों को 28 महीने तक मुफ्त में राशन देने का काम किया और जिस तरह से पक्के मकान से लेकर बाकी सब किया है, तो ये सब करके ये लाभ मिला है। और ये जब कोई पचा नहीं पाता है तो उसका ध्यान होता है किस तरह से एजेंडा दूसरी तरफ घुमाने का काम किया जा सके।
संकट में भागीदार भारत सरकार। कोरोना महामारी में 80 करोड़ लोगों को मिला मुफ्त राशन, 31,90,000 रेहड़ी पटरी वालों को मिला बिना गारंटी लोन।
सबका साथ, सबका विकास, सबका विश्वास और सबका प्रयास।
8 साल सेवा, सुशासन, गरीब कल्याण।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has shaped the world's perception of a new India with his dynamic leadership, an India which is confident and caring. In the 8 years of NDA government, diplomacy has delivered at home and abroad, even against a volatile and uncertain world. At the same time, the present government has ensured a Sashakt Bharat with significant reduction in terrorism and left-wing extremism on the home front. Our correspondent reports that after the removal of Article 370 from Jammu and Kashmir, Dr. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee's resolution of one nation, one law, one head of the nation, one symbol has been fulfilled.
Jammu and Kashmir has witnessed good governance and all-round development post-Article 370. A total of 890 central laws have now become applicable in the Union territory. Incidents of infiltration and terrorist attacks in Jammu and Kashmir have decreased significantly since 2018. The left-wing extremism scenario has also shown a significant improvement in recent years. Talking to AIR, IGCRPF Chhattisgarh Saket Singh elaborated the measures taken to tackle left-wing extremism in the state.
2014 से 2022 के बीच में घोर नक्सल प्रभावित क्षेत्रों में 79 नए कैंप स्थापित किए गए हैं एवं अन्य बलों से भी 16 कैंप लिए गए हैं। इन कैंप का उपयोग सुरक्षा की दृष्टि से तो महत्वपूर्ण है ही, इसे इंटीग्रेटेड डेवलपमेंट सेंटर के रूप में भी उपयोग किया जा रहा है और यहाँ पर से ही विकास कार्यों की गतिविधियां भी चलाई जा रही हैं। सीआरपीएफ के द्वारा राज्य में विकास की गतिविधि में भी तेजी लाने के लिए सड़कों के निर्माण में भी पूर्ण सुरक्षा दी जा रही है। वैसे क्षेत्र जहां किसी भी तरह की संचार व्यवस्था नहीं थी, वहां भी मोबाइल टावर लगवाया जा रहा है। नक्सल क्षेत्र में युवाओं को जोड़ने के लिए भी अलग अलग तरह के कार्यक्रम चलाए जा रहे हैं।
Home Ministry has considerably reduced the disturbed areas under the Armed Forces Special Powers Act in Assam, Manipur and Nagaland. The order, which came into effect from 1st April this year, would be applicable for 6 months. With Shweta Kumari, Suparna Saikya, AIR News, Delhi.
Union Home and Cooperation Minister Amit Shah has stressed on the need for early investigation of rape and sexual offences against women and children and stringent punishment in a time-bound manner in these cases. The Home Minister said this while chairing the 25th meeting of the Western Zonal Council meeting at Dev yesterday. Sri Shah added that the Additional Director General of Police level officers, if possible, women officers, should be entrusted with the responsibility of monitoring the investigation of all such cases in the police headquarters of each state. Various issues related to boundaries, security, infrastructure, transport, industries pertaining to western states were discussed in the meeting, which was held after the gap of 2 years due to COVID pandemic. The council comprises Gujarat, Maharashtra, Goa, Dadra and Nagar Haveli and Daman and Diu.
Union Minister of Education Dharmendra Pradhan has said that under the PM Shri Yojana, at least 1 or 2 model schools will be opened in each block of the country to make the children future ready. Inaugurating the new Kendriya Vidyalaya at IIT Bhubaneswar yesterday, the minister said out of about 15,000 such schools decided to be set up across the country, over 500 schools will be opened in Odisha alone. More from our correspondent.
The Union Education Minister, Mr. Pradhan, said that while under the Samagra Shiksha Abhijan about 3 lakh crore rupees will be spent during the next 4 years, a pilot model of 4 years integrated teachers education program will be started this year in the light of the new education policy. He said that steps such as these will add to the skills of the teachers, which in turn will add to the holistic development of the students. Inaugurating the 66th Kendriya Vidyalaya in the state, the minister said that the government of India will extend all possible help for the betterment of about 45,000 schools under the government of Odisha. On the occasion, the minister also performed the Bhumi Pujan of the permanent campus of the Kendriya Vidyalaya, proposed to be built at a cost of about 25 crore rupees. Girish Chandra Das, AIR News, Bhubaneswar.
Chairman of Agriculture and Processed Food Products Export Development Authority, APEDA, M. Angamuttu, has said that the government's move to restrict wheat exports last month has been primarily focused on meeting domestic demand while protecting the farmers' income. He said India has kept its wheat export options open for those developing countries to meet their food security needs after restriction on shipment of wheat was announced last month. The APEDA chairman said requests from several countries for importing wheat from India are being processed at the government level.
The 12th World Trade Organization WTO Ministerial Conference will begin in Geneva, Switzerland today after a gap of almost 5 years. Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal will lead the Indian delegation in the conference. The key areas of discussions and negotiations in this year's conference include WTO's response to the pandemic, fisheries subsidies negotiations and agriculture issues, including public stockholding for food security. Our correspondent reports that India has a vital stake in protecting the interests of all stakeholders in the country and interests of the developing and poor nations that look up to the leadership of India at multilateral forums, including WTO. Lieutenant Governor of Jammu and Kashmir Manoj Sinha has said there can be no sustainable development and prosperity without peace, and the society as a whole must condemn the targeted killings of innocent people by terrorists. He was speaking on the recent spate of target killings in Kashmir after inaugurating Eklavya Model Residential School and laying foundation stone for a new tribal youth hostel in Kulgam yesterday. On the occasion, the Lieutenant Governor said a female teacher who had played a key role in shaping young lives was killed, and observed that if society doesn't condemn such acts, then we are failing the humanity. The Lieutenant Governor, while noting that every effort is being made to free people of J&K from the shackles of terrorism, said that his administration has a policy of not touching the innocents and not sparing the culprits. He said targeting killings are aimed at provoking security forces and assured the people of Jammu and Kashmir that no action will be taken against any innocent.
पिछले कुछ दिनों में कुछ लक्षित घटनाएं हुई हैं, टारगेटेड किलिंग्स हुई हैं निरपराध लोगों, और मैं समझता हूं कि समाज को इसकी निंदा करनी चाहिए। एक महिला शिक्षिका जो बच्चों को शिक्षा देती है, जीवन बनाती, उसको आकर के मार दिया जाए। अगर समाज इसकी निंदा नहीं करेगा तो मैं समझता हूं कि हम अपने कर्तव्य से पीछे हट गए। मैं आप सबसे निवेदन करना चाहता हूं, ये दीपक जब बुझने लगता है तो उसकी लौ तेज हो जाती है, और वही स्थिति यहाँ आतंकवाद की है। ये लौ इसलिए तेज है कि हमारे पुलिस फोर्सेस ने, हमारे सिक्योरिटी के जवानों ने इनकी नकेल कसने का काम किया, और हम कहना चाहते हैं कि आतंकवाद अब अंतिम सांस ले रहा है जम्मू कश्मीर के।
In the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, 3 terrorists have been gunned down in an encounter which began last evening at Drupgam village in Rajpura area of Pulwama district. 1 terrorist was neutralized last evening in the initial exchange of fire during the gunfight, and 2 more were killed this morning. The gunfight began after security forces laid a cordon and search operation after receiving specific intelligence input about the presence of terrorists in Drupgam village. The United Nations General Assembly has adopted an India-sponsored resolution on multilingualism that mentions the Hindi language for the first time. The resolution passed yesterday urges the United Nations to continue spreading vital communications and messages in both official and non-official languages, including Hindi. India's permanent representative to the United Nations, T.S. Tirumurti, said multilingualism is acknowledged as a basic principle of the United Nations, and expressed gratitude to the Secretary General for supporting multilingualism. He said for the first time, the Hindi language is mentioned in the resolution besides Bangla and Urdu.
The U.S. is weaving closer ties with other partners, especially India, the world's largest democracy. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said this while speaking at Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore on Friday. The dialogue was organized by International Institute of Strategic Studies, London. Mr. Austin added, "We believe that India's growing military capability and technological prowess can be a stabilizing force in the region." He added, India and other partner countries have an important role to play for the peace in the Indo-Pacific region. The U.S. Defense Secretary described Indo-Pacific as a priority theater for Washington. He said, free and open Indo-Pacific is at the heart of American national security strategies, and the power of the partnerships that regional nations have built with the U.S. forms the core for a peaceful world. Mr. Austin underlined the importance of the role India and other partners can play in the region. You are listening to the morning news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says India has emerged as fastest growing major economy in world with the mantra of reform, perform and transform. Home Minister Amit Shah stresses on early investigation of rape and sexual offences against women and children and stringent punishment in time-bound manner. Chairs the 25th Western Zonal Council meeting at Deep. WTO Ministerial Conference to begin today in Geneva. Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal to lead Indian delegation. 3 terrorists gunned down by security forces in the Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir. UN General Assembly adopts India-sponsored resolution on multilingualism, mentions Hindi language for the first time. India's growing military prowess, a stabilizing force in Asia-Pacific, says U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. Ayush Minister Sarbananda Sonowal says 25 crore people to be associated with programs for International Day of Yoga. Tokyo Paralympian Avni Lekra wins second gold medal in women's shooting at Shatahu 2022. Prime Minister congratulates Avni on her feat. And in cricket, second T20 international between India and South Africa to be played in Cuttack this evening. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts.
क्या आप कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्जाम्स की तैयारी कर रहे हैं? आपके लिए ऑल इंडिया रेडियो लाया है प्रोग्राम अभ्यास, एक ऐसा प्रोग्राम जहां आप सवाल भेजते हैं व्हाट्सएप नंबर 9829094044 पर या फिर ईमेल करते हैं abhyas.airnews@gmail.com पर। आपके सवालों के जवाब हमारे एक्सपर्ट देते हैं शनिवार रात 9:30 बजे। इस बार का विषय है इंडियन सोसाइटी, भारतीय समाज और सवाल भेजने की अंतिम तारीख है 15 जून। आपका अभ्यास हमारा प्रयास।
अपने बिजनेस को बढ़ाने के लिए लीजिए आकाशवाणी का सहयोग और दीजिए उसे बुलंदियों के पंख।
आपका बिजनेस लोकल है या राष्ट्रीय, आकाशवाणी देती है उपभोक्ताओं तक पहुंचने का हर विकल्प।
और अब तो आप घर, दफ्तर या दुकान पर बैठे बैठे कर सकते हैं आकाशवाणी के किसी भी केंद्र के लिए विज्ञापनों की बुकिंग।
आकाशवाणी के विभिन्न चैनलों पर विज्ञापन देना सुलभ और सस्ता।
बुकिंग है तो संपर्क करें 8700014242 पर।
8700014242।
Welcome back to the morning news on All India Radio. Union Information and Broadcasting Minister, Youth Affairs and Sports Minister Anurag Singh Thakur today said, Clean India is the key to Fit India and Powerful India. Addressing the players of Sports Authority of India and members of Nehru Yuva Kendra in Lucknow, the minister said, at a time when country is celebrating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, we should develop a culture of sports and fitness in India. He said the government is trying to provide all facilities to the players. He flagged off the Fit India, Clean India Run Rally today morning at Hazratganj, Lucknow. He later participated in a function of NYK and SAI at KD Singh Babu Stadium, Lucknow. And now let's listen to our special program Azadi Ka Safar, highlighting the importance of the day during the freedom struggle.
Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav.
Azadi Ka Safar with AIR News. Birth of a Nation.
India's glorious freedom struggle is one of the greatest struggles the modern world has ever witnessed. AIR News brings you a glimpse of the struggle every day.
In today's episode, we remember revolutionary freedom fighter Hemchandra Kanungo Das, who was born on the 12th of June 1871 in Midnapur district, West Bengal. He was the principal co-accused with Sri Aurobindo in the Alipur bomb case in 1908.
He was also one of the creators of the Calcutta flag, based on which the first flag of independent India was raised by Bhikaiji Cama on the 22nd of August 1907 at the International Socialist Conference in Stuttgart, Germany.
A close associate of Barindra Kumar Ghosh and Aurobindo Ghosh, Hemchandra Kanungo was instrumental in setting up a secret bomb factory. Kanungo went to Paris to learn the art of bomb making from Russian émigrés in Paris. To get money for the trip, he sold his house in Calcutta.
He reached Marseille towards the end of 1906 and spent a few months trying to get in contact with revolutionaries in Switzerland, France and England. Finally, Hemchandra found a backer to support him while he studied chemistry in Paris.
He returned to India in 1908 with a trunk full of up-to-date technical literature, the most important item of which was a 70-page manual on bomb making, translated from Russian. He started teaching the art of bomb making to other freedom fighters.
He opened a secret bomb factory at Maniktala near Kolkata, founder members of which were Hemchandra Kanungo, Aurobindo Ghosh and his brother Barendra Kumar Ghosh.
A suicide squad of 2 members was sent to kill the British officer Kingsford at Muzaffarpur. However, after bombing a wrong target, freedom fighter Prafulla Chaki committed suicide before the British Indian police could detain him alive. But freedom fighter Khudiram Bose was arrested.
As a result of this incident, the covert bomb factory established by Hemchandra Kanungo was raided by the British police and shut down. Almost all the members were arrested in a short period of time. For his involvement in the Alipur bomb case, Hemchandra was sentenced to transportation for life in the Andamans, but was released in 1921.
In 1926, his book account of the revolutionary movement in Bengal was published. In this book, Hemchandra presented an analysis of the history of the armed political revolution in Bengal. The great revolutionary died on the 8th of April, 1951. AIR News salutes the great revolutionary freedom fighter.
We also remember revolutionary freedom fighter Apurva Sen, who was martyred on the 12th of June, 1932. A clerk at the General Post Office of Chittagong, Apurva Sen was known as Bhola in revolutionary circles. After the Chittagong Armory raid, the police were in search for the absconders.
On the information provided by an informant, Captain Cameroon raided the house of Savitri Chakraborty of Patia, where Apurva Sen was killed in the crossfire on the 12th of June, 1932. AIR News salutes the great son of the soil.
On the 12th of June 1857, 3 independence activists, Salamat Ali, Amanat Ali and Sheikh Haro, launched an attack with their swords on Commandant Major MacDonald's bungalow, where he was having tea with Sir Norman Leslie and Assistant Surgeon Dr. Grant.
Leslie was killed at once, and the other 2 officers were wounded. The 3 activists were hanged on the 12th of June, 1857. We salute the great martyrs.
That brings us to the end of this episode of Azadi Ka Safar with AIR News. See you in the next episode tomorrow.
The next question of Amrit Mahotsav quiz will be shared with the listeners tomorrow. Celebrate 75 years of India's independence by participating in Amrit Mahotsav quiz with AIR News. India and Bangladesh jointly celebrated Rabindra Nazrul at embassies of India and Bangladesh in Beijing yesterday. The birth anniversary of Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore and Bangladesh's national poet Qazi Nazrul Islam was celebrated with a delightful cultural medley at Swami Vivekanand Cultural Center of the Indian Embassy in Beijing. Indian Ambassador Pradeep Rawat addressed the gathering and gave insights on how both the nations shared so much in common and how a celebration of the 2 men of letters in many ways embodied the multicultural and pluralistic kaleidoscope that is the Indian subcontinent.
This culturally fertile and intellectually stimulating region has produced great men of letters and accomplishment. I for sure can say that there is something in the land of Bengal that many of the subcontinent's Nobel laureates belong to Bengal.
Union Minister for Ayush, Sarbananda Sonowal, has said that a target has been set to associate 25 crore people with programs to be organized on International Day of Yoga, IDY. Interacting with media persons in Jaipur yesterday, Mr. Sonowal said the main function of IDY will be organized in Mysuru. Besides, union ministers will be attending the programs which are scheduled to be organized at 75 iconic places across the country. The minister said that several decisions have been taken to boost the Ayush sector. This is the reason that the trust of people has been re-established on these traditional medical systems. He said the market for Ayush in the country has reached $18.2 billion.
देश के अंदर आयुष को आगे बढ़ाने के लिए प्रधानमंत्री जी ने जिस हिसाब से आयुष को मान्यता दी है, पिछले 8 साल के अंदर आयुष ने दुनिया में अपना पहचान बनाने में सफलता प्राप्त की है। आयुष इंडस्ट्री का अभी मार्केट $18.2 बिलियन तक पहुंच गया है। आयुष मंत्रालय बजट 6 गुना तक बढ़ा दिया गया है। कोविड-19 पेंडेमिक की काल में आयुष की जो प्रोडक्ट रहे, इसके जरिए लोगों को काफी राहत मिला है।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has congratulated Avni Lekra on winning another gold at Shatahu 2022. In a tweet, Mr. Modi said, "The nation is proud of her." The Prime Minister said her determination to scale new heights is remarkable. He wished her the very best for the future. The Tokyo Paralympian won the gold medal yesterday in the R8 event, women's 50-meter rifle 3 positions SH1. She beat Veronika Vadovikova of Slovakia with a score of 458.3 to win gold for India. Home Minister Amit Shah and Sports Minister Anurag Singh Thakur also congratulated Avni on her feat.
In the Khelo India Youth Games 2021, Maharashtra is at the top of the medal table with 37 gold, 34 silver and 29 bronze. It has so far grabbed 100 medals. Haryana is at the close second with 36 gold, 33 silver and 39 bronze medals. Haryana has grabbed 108 medals. Karnataka remained at the third place with 21 gold, 13 silver and 18 bronze medals.
In hockey, Indian men's hockey team beat Olympic champions Belgium 5-4 in a thrilling shootout in the FIH Hockey Pro League match at Antwerp in Belgium yesterday. The second match of the double-header between the two sides will be played at 8 p.m. IST today.
In cricket, India will take on South Africa in the second 2020 international of the 5-match series at Cuttack today. The match will begin at 7 p.m. Now let us take a look at the weather forecast for today. National capital Delhi will have partly cloudy sky with possibility of development of thunder lightning. Minimum temperature was 33 and maximum will be 43 degrees Celsius. Mumbai will have partly cloudy sky. Chennai will have generally cloudy sky. Kolkata will have partly cloudy sky. Srinagar and Jammu will have partly cloudy sky with 1 or 2 spells of rain or thunder showers.
And now an overview of today's newspapers. BJP clinches pre-dawn thrillers in Maharashtra, Haryana, upsetting opposition equations, writes Hindustan Times on the Rajya Sabha elections yesterday. A headline in the Hindu Business Line cites the U.S. Treasury report saying, despite 3 COVID waves, India made a strong recovery. Aid to Afghanistan gives way to thaw in ties with Kabul. Flights from next week, writes the Sunday Tribune. A top front page headline in the Economic Times writes about India's rich travelling to exotic and secluded locations to boost immunity and recover from shocks of the pandemic. And finally, 160-hour course to boost government school teachers' English-speaking skills in the national capital, reports the Times of India.
And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says India has emerged as fastest growing major economy in the world with the mantra of reform, perform and transform. Home Minister Amit Shah stresses on early investigation of rape and sexual offences against women and children and stringent punishment in time-bound manner, chairs the 25th Western Zonal Council meeting at Diu. WTO Ministerial Conference to begin today in Geneva. Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal to lead Indian delegation. 3 terrorists gunned down by security forces in Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. UN General Assembly adopts India-sponsored resolution on multilingualism, mentions Hindi language for the first time. India's growing military prowess, a stabilizing force in Asia-Pacific, says US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. Ayush Minister Sarbananda Sonowal says 25 crore people to be associated with the programs for International Day of Yoga. Tokyo Paralympian Avni Lekra wins second gold medal in women's shooting at Shatahu 2022. Prime Minister congratulates Avni on her feat. And with that, we end the morning news. Have a nice day.